Hey boys and girls, John Manellis here from Auto Care Plus. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about your air conditioning in your car. It's June 22nd here in New England and forecast is to be in the 90s for the foreseeable future. Summer's here. That's the good news. Bad news is the phones are ringing off the hook with broken air conditioning. We don't actually think about it too much until you go to turn it on and it's blowing hot air, and at that point there could have been damage done. So I'm going to give you some pointers and tips on how to um, know what the failure points are and how to avoid them from being an expensive repair. AC is a complex and expensive system to fix. It also lives in a harsh environment in your car, which is oval, which is going down the road. Every time that car of yours, accelerates, decelerates, the engine torques, and every time the engine torques, the air conditioner compressor is connected to the engine, and that moves with it, and all the connections, the hard lines, the soft lines, all of those also move, and every time they move, um, it puts stress on the connection and can cause a leak. What we're trying to prevent is a leak. Um, what happens too often is that it starts to get a little less cool and people don't notice it. But if it's a bigger leak, then it gets to the point where it doesn't cool at all. So what we're trying to do here is recognize, proper maintenance. So what a lot of people don't realize is when the refrigerant leaks out, uh, not only does the gas leak out, it keeps, that is responsible for cooling down the air. Also, the oil uh, is in there as well, and that leaks out. Oil is what's responsible for keeping your system components lubricated. And honestly, there's not a lot of oil in the system. A lot of systems carry about 2 ounces of oil. So any kind of refrigerant leak is going to leak out some oil. And when the oil leaks out, it can cause lubrication starvation, if you will, and metal bits to start flying around inside your system, which is going to contaminate the orifice tube and the condenser and all of the intricate pieces of your system. So you want to be able to pay attention. You want to be able to have a certified air conditioning specialist look at your vehicle. The other thing to watch out for, if you're buying a used car and you don't know the history of it, has it ever been properly serviced? A lot of people will go over to their local big box store, buy a can of refrigerant, and either just dump it in and overcharge it or undercharge it, or but they don't put any oil in with it. You just buy the refrigerant. So now you have a system that's under lubricated, and you've just bought the vehicle. I always recommend that you have a professional drain and evacuate, and then recharge the system up to the proper specs. That way, you've got a clean slate to begin with. Other things to be aware of: refrigerant is actually, his job is to remove moisture from the air in the cabin, which is what makes the air cool down. Um, but because of that, it also takes on moisture, and moisture, of course, uh, causes corrosion, and corrosion causes failure in your AC system. So there is a device called the accumulator that actually absorbs that moisture to protect the system. But again, these things need um, proper care, if you will. So things to look out for on most vehicles: they're driven by the serpentine belt, the belt that drives your air conditioner, also drives your water pump a lot of times your alternator, your power steering pump. That belt is always turning with the engine. So the AC pump, if you're not using the AC, it's not always turning. What they do is they have a clutch, and that clutch engages and disengages when the AC turns on the compressor, or the computer turns on the compressor, or the driver turns on the air conditioner. Things to note: the air conditioner also runs when your defrost is running. A lot of people don't know that. That's how it helps defrost the window quicker. So when that clutch, if it's not properly gapped, or it doesn't, or if it starts to wear, you start to hear some noises when you turn on your air conditioner. You don't want to ignore those noises. If you hear any kind of noise, it's usually indication of things that are wearing out or going to fail soon. So we can prevent expensive repairs, maybe just fix the clutch, adjust the clutch, install a new clutch before it becomes an entire air conditioner compressor. Before a lot of metal bits get into the system and contaminate your evaporator and your orifice tube and your condenser and your lines. All of that leads to very expensive repairs down the road. So it's a good idea to listen for the cues, get your system drain evacuated, recharged, so that they get the proper amount of refrigerant put back in and the proper amount of oil. And speaking of oil, if you drive a hybrid vehicle, everything I just said about that air conditioner compressor being driven by a belt and by a clutch, that's not true in those vehicles. They actually use the hybrid high voltage battery, and they use an electric air conditioning compressor. But it has special oil in it, not special refrigerant, but I'll leave that for another video. Anyway, guys, the moral of the story, normal wear and tear eventually gets to all moving parts, but you can address the problems earlier in the game, which can save you a lot more expense on extensive repairs that escalate the longer you ignore the noises. So again, next time you're in for service, have one of our service advisors or a master technician give your AC a once over. Until next time, stay cool.